A reading from the Holy Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ according to St. Luke. And Jesus said, there was a man who had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the share of property that falls to me. And he divided his living between them. Not many days later, the younger son gathered all he had and took his journey into a far country. And there he squandered his property in loose living. And when he had spent everything, a great famine arose in that country, and he began to be in want. So he went and joined himself to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him into his fields to feed swine. And he would gladly have fed on the pods that the swine ate, and no one gave him anything. But when he came to himself, he said, How many of my father's hired servants have bread enough and to spare, but I perish here with hunger? I will arise and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of your hired servants. And he arose and came to his father. But while he was yet at a distance, his father saw him and had compassion, and ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you, and I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet, and bring the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and make merry. For this my son was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found. And they began to make merry. Now his elder son was in the field, and as he came and drew near to the house, he heard music and dancing. And he called one of the servants and asked what this meant. And he said to him, Your brother has come, and your father has killed the fatted calf, because he has received him safe and sound. But he was angry and refused to go in. His father came out and entreated him, but he answered his father, All these many years I've served you, and I never disobeyed your command. Yet you never gave me a kid, that I might make merry with my friends. But when this son of yours came, who has devoured your living with harlots, you killed for him the fatted calf. And he said to him, Son, you are always with me, and all that is mine is yours. But it was right to make merry and be glad, for this your brother was dead and is alive. He was lost and is found. Ushuha lana minai. Thank you for inviting me to preach today. So, I'm noticing the popularity of these internet personality quizzes, where you go and you click sort of your preferences. Would you like this more than this? And you sort of answer a few dozen questions, and then there's some sort of categories of personality that they give back to you. There's one that has like sort of 4 different letters, and they kind of will sort of describe what personality you have based on the way you answer these little quizzes. And I don't know much about that, but it seems like Jesus has a sort of different methodology of helping us understand who we are. It's not really an internet Quizlet. He tells a story, and what he expects of us is, first of all, to listen to the story, to pay attention to it, but then to sort of monitor ourselves. I think it's important to sort of listen to this, to hear the story, and to sort of pay attention to our hearts. And what do we feel most for? Which character do we associate ourselves most with? Who are we in this story? And I think that will really tell us a lot about ourselves. And I think there's a lot of angles to go at. And there's 3 main characters. There's the father, and there's 2 sons. There's the younger son and the older son. But there's also each of those characters in different parts of the story. And each of them really, it tells us really a lot about human nature to see how each of these characters acts. And I kind of want to work through them just to sort of help myself and help you meditate on this, because built within the story is not just a sort of personality test, but also very deep advice on what we're supposed to do, but also how God relates to us in each of those sort of moments in life. So we start with the dad. The father's a very, very interesting character. He doesn't talk a lot, but the few words that he says and the few things that he does are really fascinating. First, pay attention. The son, the younger son, says, I would like my share of the property that will come to me. This is a very deeply troubling, disrespectful thing that happens. The son, the younger son, which we're going to get to in a second, he's saying, what are you going to leave me in your will? I want that now. I want to act as if you're dead. That's a very sharp, ugly thing to say to your parent. Now the father, I think understanding the sort of inner motivation and psychology of the son, doesn't really make much of an attempt to stop him. It looks like the father understands the son has his mind set. He's hardened his heart. He's closed his heart. And at that point, if somebody's closed their heart, he lets him go. He doesn't stand in his way. He doesn't lock him in his room. He's an adult. Not only is he an adult, it looks like the father understands his son well enough to know, there's no talking to him at this point. Okay, fine, bye. The father respects himself enough not to grovel or beg. Okay, you know what? Here, you want it? Get out of here. Very sort of interesting kind of dignity that this father represents. And maybe we're there as parents, and maybe we're not. Maybe we're still sort of trying to sort of control more. But the way Jesus is telling us, this is the way God treats us. If we have hardened our heart, if we are insisting on doing the wrong thing, God lets us. Even if it's going to hurt us, even if he knows that it's not going to take long. We're going to lose everything we have. We're going to desire to eat the junk, the garbage that pigs eat. We're going to starve. God knows what's going to happen to us spiritually. But he created us free. And part of that freedom means he's going to respect our ability to sin. He's not going to respect the sin. But if we want to destroy ourselves and we're insisting on destroying ourselves, he's going to let us. But at the end, though, look what the father does. That's when it becomes even more fascinating. The son returns, and he's not even halfway back. He's still at a distance, and the father sees him. That implies that he was waiting for him to come back. So it's this respect for himself and dignity, but that doesn't diminish the love that he has for the son. And parents, not just parents, but friends and people that are in any kind of relationship. When somebody repents, look what the father does. He jumps, he goes and brings him. He says, bring the best robe, put a ring on his finger, kill the fatted calf. That's the equivalent of using the nice dishes that you have in the cabinet with glass. Break out all of that stuff. Because my son was dead and is alive. He knew that his son was going to die spiritually. But that there was still hope, even after death there was hope. So that's the father. And maybe we would feel for him. But maybe, and maybe more likely, if we're younger, we feel like the younger son. Jesus makes it a note. This is the younger son. This is the personality of youth. And the personality of youth, it's not that he intended maliciously to hurt his father. He wanted to have fun. But the result is, when all you care about is having fun, you are going to hurt others. That's a fact. But even more, if that's all you care about, you're going to hurt yourself. And you think, again, this is the young son. The young son thought, I'm going to go and have all this fun. I'm going to take my dad, and he didn't even think about the future. It's going to last forever. This money's going to last me forever. It took hardly any time at all. He had nothing. And in desperation, my friends will take care of me. It's the ignorance, the naivety of a young person to think that your friends are going to care about you when your money's gone. It's not going to happen. He goes and he finds any job he can get. It's a very degrading job. Pigs were considered unclean animals, and he had to feed them. And he didn't even have enough food for himself, even with that kind of job. And he was wishing he could eat the food, the leftover junk that he was giving the pigs, but that would have been stealing. He didn't do that. And it says, and no one gave him anything. Jesus makes it a point. You young people, don't think that any when you have destroyed yourself. When you don't take care of yourself, don't wait for somebody else to do it for you. Maybe we're there. Maybe we're there and we're in denial. Look, maybe we've wasted everything, we've thrown everything in our lives away, but we're still clinging to this dream that having everything I want, having all the fun I want is going to make me happy. No, it's not. Because it's not about money. It's not that money that we lose. It's our hearts, it's our souls, it's our love. And we throw ourselves here and there, and we give ourselves away. We give away what God gave us in our heart, and we end up empty. And the problem is we lie to ourselves. And we act like we're not empty, but we are. But then the story turns. And this is the hinge of the whole story. And it says, when he came to himself, when he woke up, he said, oh my gosh, I'm starving, I'm empty. He realized, he admitted that he was empty. He was empty before, but he didn't admit it to himself. The turning point for us, especially for the young maybe that would be more tempted to live this way, is to understand that you're empty. And to understand that nobody's going to feed you except your Heavenly Father. And to go back, but not with pride. He makes a good move. His move is, I'm going to go and tell my Father I don't deserve him anymore. But that I just want to be his servant. I don't deserve to ask to be his child. That's a good move on his part. That's good humility. Not to march back as if you own the place. You don't own the place anymore. We don't deserve anything from God. We turn to him after we've wasted our hearts and we say, at least let me serve you, because being your servant is better than being a rich person in the world. And then God treats us the way this father treated his son. But the last son is also interesting. And maybe the first person that we can really relate to is the son, because he kind of has a point. I've kept all your commands. I've been working with you all these years. And now this son of yours, he doesn't say my brother. This son of yours who's wasted your money with harlots. He doesn't know that, but he makes an assumption. Maybe it's true. This son of yours. Maybe we relate to him. Maybe we do the right thing, but we're bitter about it. Maybe we don't do it with all our hearts. And maybe we're doing it for some earthly reward. And then somebody else gets the reward that we think we deserve, and then we're mad at God for it. And there's a party going on inside. There's a spiritual banquet waiting for us, but we refuse to go in. We're outside and we're stubborn. Because we're envious and jealous of other people that are inside enjoying the presence of God. And that's where the story ends. Because if we're there, Christ leaves it up to us. Look, we're outside. Either we're outside because we wasted the property and we're out having our own fun, or we're outside because we're jealous and envious of somebody else. Either way, we're invited in. And either way, the banquet is waiting for us. And Christ kills not just the fatted calf, he offers himself for us. And the banquet is of his own body and his own blood. And the garment that we have is the garment that was given to us in baptism. That's what's waiting for us whenever we come to ourselves. And we saw that the younger son came to himself and returned and asked to be a servant. It's up to us now to follow in his footsteps.